All right, Substance Control Act, Toxic Substance Control Act, Section 26, Administrative Acts, Cooperation Federal Agency upon request of administrator each of the federal department agency authorized takes service and personal facility available without reimbursement. Administrative Act. The French administrative such information data system and statistics to allow the administrative access to information possession of the administrator may reasonably determine the necessary for the administration of the fees. The administrator may require the permit for any person required to submit the information under Section 4A or a notice for the information review by the administrator under Section 5 of the manufacturer possessive of the chemical substance of the subject risk evaluation under Section 6B, or a fee of sufficient not more than reasonable necessary to defray the cost related to such chemical assistance of the administrator of the Section 4, 5, and 6 collecting, processing, and reviewing and providing access for the protection and disclosure of the appropriate owner. Section 14, information of the chemical substance under the title of the included with the contractor cost incurred with administrative action. The administrator in setting the fee under the paragraph, the administrator shall take into account the ability to pay the person required with this pay such fee for the cost of the administrator to carry out the activity described in these paragraph with the rules provided with the sharing with the cost such a fee in any of the cases expanded with the testings or share in the Section 4 and 6 for the administrator. Consolation of the administrator. Small business administration shall rule prescribe the standard determining person with the qualified small business for the concerned purpose of the paragraph 4. 3. Fund establishment established by the Treasury of the United States. The fund is known by the Toxic Substance Control Act. Service fee fund with the paragraph found in the fee with the fund consisting of the amounts deposited with the fund under this paragraph. B. Collection of the deposit fee subject to the conditions of the subparagraph C. The administrator shall collect these fees described in subsection but disposed of those fees in the fund. C. Use of the funds by an administrator. Fees authorized under the section collected but available to obligation only to the extent of the amount provided with the advance for the appropriate action of the child available within the official year of the limitation of the deferring cost for the activity described in paragraph 1. D. Accounting and auditing. Administrative shall biannually prepare a submit with the Committee of Environmental Public Works, the Senate Committee of the Emergency Committee, and the House of Representatives the report that include the accounting fees of the paid administrative under paragraph the amount of disbursed for the fund period covered reported reflect the financial statement provided in accordance with subsection 3515, 3521, Title 31 United States Code. Auditing. In general, for the purpose of the section 3515C with the Title 31 United States Code of the fund shall be considered the component of the covered executive agencies. 2. Components of the audit. The annual audit required in accordance with the 31551 and 352.21 in Title 31 United States Code. Financial statement activities carried out using the amounts of the funds shall be included in the analysis and fees collected for the amount that is disbursed under this subsection. Reasonable the fees in play for the day of the audit to meet the current and projected cost of administering of the provisions of the title where the fees may be used. The number of the requests of the risk evaluations made with the manufacturers under Section 6B, 4C, 3, 2, and 3. Federal responsibility. Inspector General Environmental Protection Agency shall conduct the annual audit described in also clause due to the submit administrative report that describe the finding of any of the recommendation of Inspector General resulting from an audit. For the amount of the adjustment of the fee for the funds and same with the fees under the section, administrator shall prescribe lower fee for the smaller business concerns after the consolation with the administrator of the small business administration. Some fees established under paragraph 1 of the level of the fees aggregate provide a substantial source of funds to provide annually to lower 25% of the cost of the administrator of the carrying out 4, section 4, 5, and 6 collect within processing and review, providing its access to protect the disclosure appropriate under section 14 information chemical substance under the title other than the cost of the conduct of the complete risk evaluation subsection 6B. $25 million subject to the adjustment pursuant to subparagraph F, and the risk of the risk evaluation in subparagraph D. Reflect the appropriate balance in the assessment of the fees between manufacturer processor allow for the payment and fee for the assortment of the manufacturer process. 6. Notwithstanding the subparagraph B, schedule to provide subparagraph and the clause D of the chemical substances with the administrator examine the request of the manufacturer pursuant to the 6B, 4, C2, establishing the fee of a level sufficient to defray the full cost of the administrator conducting risk evaluation in section 6B. Chemical stuff of the administrator have been granted request of the manufacturer pursuant to 6B, 4, C2, which are included with the 2014 Toxic Substance Control Act work plan for the chemical assessment establishment fee with the level of sufficient of the defray 50% of the cost of the administrator conducting the risk evaluation under subsequent 6B. Applicable fee, apply fee for the elected pursuant to 1 and 2 with the clause 1 and 2 that defray the cost of the described in those costs. Prior to establishment of the amendment, any of the fees in paragraph 1 consult with the means for the parties potential for the subsidy fee of the representative for the condition of the no obligation federal advisory committee act of subchapter 2 of the chapter 5 title 5 United States Code Apple to respect the judge meeting. 5. Beginning with the official year of the 3 years after the enactment of the Franken R. Lautenberg Chemical Safety 21st Century Act, with the 3 years after the cancellation of the parties potentially with the subject fee of the representative pursuant to subparagraph E, the increase the decree with the established under paragraph 1 is necessary to adjust the inflation and ensure the funds are decided as positive in the funds are insufficient to defray approximately no more than 25% of the cost of administrative of the carrying out section 4, 5, and 6 of the collecting process reviewing the provided the acts of the protecting with the disclosure appropriate under Section 14, information chemical substance for the title other than cause of the conduct of the chemical risk evaluation requested under Section 6B 4C2 for the cause for risk evaluation specified in paragraph D and G. If the notice is submitted under Section 5 and not reviewed, such the notice withdrawal and refunded with a fee or a portion of the fee is not substantial work with the performer not for the notice. 5. Minimum amount of operation fees may not be assessed for the fiscal year within the detection amount of the operation of the chemical risk review with the reduction program project for the Environmental Protection Agency for the fiscal years, excluding the amount of any of the fees appropriated with the fiscal years equal or greater than the amount of operation for the program project for the fiscal year of 2014. Alright, 6. Termination. The authority provided by the subsection terminated for the conclusion of the fiscal year of 10 years after the date of the enactment of Franklin R. Lutenberg Chemical Safety of the 21st Century Act, the otherwise reauthorization by modified by Congress. Alright, action with respective categories. Action with the authorized with respect to be taken with the administrator any of the provision with respect to the chemical substance of the mixture may be taken with the administrator in accordance with the provision of the make with respect to the category chemical substance of the mixture with the administrator action under the provision act with respect to the category chemical substance or mixture with the reference for the act of the chemical substance mixture and so far that the relief of such action shall be deemed to meet the reference of any of the chemical substance mixture of this of the category. For a substance in the paragraph of the term category chemical substance that means a group of the chemical substance members which are similar to molecular, structural, physical, chemical, biological properties in use of the in mode of the entrance of the human body into the environment and members in which there are some of the other ways of suitable classification as such for the purpose of the act of the except for those that do not mean the group of chemicals substances which are grouped together solely with the basis of the being new chemical substance of the term category mixture the mean the group of the mixture members of the similar molecular, structural, physical, chemical, biological properties, or in use of the mode of the entrance of the human body with environmental the members which are some other way suitable classification of such for the purpose of this act. Assistance Office. The Administrator shall establish the Environmental Protection Agency to identify the office for the provided technical other non-financial assistance for the manufacturing process of the chemical substance mixture respecting the requirements of the act if it's applicable to set manufacturer processors policy of the agency respecting application of the requirements of such manufacturers as processors mean to the method by such manufacturer processors must comply with such requirements. Final disclosures except for the provided under paragraph 3 each of the other employee Environmental Protection Agency, Department of Human Health Association performs any function duty of the other act by any of the financial interest of any other substance of the subject of the adding of the rule of the order and of this act into any of the person applied with the receipt of the grant and contract of this act shall on February 1st, 1978 or on February 1st of each year thereafter the Human Service Secretary Health and Human Services here and in some section of reference for the Secretary as appropriate written statements concerning all the such interests held by such officer employed during the preceding calendar years. The statement should be made available to the public. The Administrative Secretary shall act within 90 days effective the date of the act of defined with the term knowing financial interest for the purpose of the paragraph 1. Establish the mention of the requirement of the written statement that specifies in paragraph 1 will be monitored and enforced, including the appropriate provisions. Review. The Administrative Secretary shall study for the statements B. Report the Congress on June 1st, 1978 or June 1st each year thereafter respect to such statement the actions regarded there during the preceding calendar year. 3. The Administrator may rule identifying a specific position environmental Agency Secretary may rule to identify specific position of the Department of Health and Human Services which are non-regulatory, non-compliance in nature of the administration of the Secretary may be ruled provided the officers and employers occupying such position shall accept the requirements of paragraph 1. This subsection does not supersede the requirements of Chapter 11 Title 18 It's code. An officer or employee who subject to knowingly violates the subsection any rules in there under shall be fined not more than $2,500 or in prison not more than 1 year. After the statement of the basis of the the final order issued under this act shall be accompanied with the statement of the basis of the purpose of the contents adequacy of the statement that is not subject to the additional review of any of the purposes. Any other respect. Assistant Administrator of the President by with the consent of the same of the appropriate Assistant Administrator of the Tax and Substance and Environmental Protection Agency, such Administrative Assistant Administrator shall be qualified individual who is reason of the background experience especially qualified directly in the program concerning the effects of the chemicals on the human health environment, and such administrative assistant administrator shall be reasonable A. the collection of the information, B. the preparation started, C. the making the recommendations, do the administrative regulatory other actions carrying out the purpose of the facilitate administrative of the act, and so the other function of the administrator may assign with the delegate. 2. Assistant Administrator appropriated paragraph 1 in addition with the Associate Administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency under section 1D of the Reorganization Plan, section number 3, 1970. Or the scientific science standards, the carrying out section 4, 5, and 6 extent of the administrator to make a decision based on the scientific information, technical procedure, measure, the method, the protocol, methodologies, models employed in manner consistent with the best available the scientific shall consider as applicable. 1. Extent of the mode, the scientific information, technical procedures, method, protocol, methodologies, models employed to generate information reasonable with the consistent with the intent of the use, extent of which the information relevant to the administrator use to make a decision on the chemical substance, and make sure in the degree of clarity, completeness in which the duty, data assumption, methods, quality assurance analysis is exploited to generate the information document the extent of the variability, uncertainty of the information process, measure the method and protocol of the methodology models are evaluated and characterized. 5. The extent of the independent verification of peer review of the information of the proceeding measure of the method of protocols, methodologies, and models. Weights of the scientific evidence administrator shall make decisions under Section 4, 5, and 6 based on the weight of the scientific evidence, availability of information. Section 14, administrators shall make it available for the public. All determination finding rules consistent with the agreements of the order of the administrator for the title of any other information required by the provided administrator under Section 4. No technical summary of each of the risk evaluation conducted in Section 6B. List of the study with the considered administrator that carry out the such risk evaluation along with the result of the study. 5. Each designation chemical substance in Section 6B along with its implication information analysis and basis made of the designation. Carry reasonably available information carrying out Section 4, 5, and 6 administration shall take into consideration information chemical substance mixtures including hazard exposure information under conditions of use that responsible available to administrator policy procedure the guidance developed no later than 2 years after the enactment of the Franklin R. Lutenberg Chemical Safety Act of the 21st century of the administration shall develop the policy procedures guidance administrator to determine as necessary for the carry out of the amendments of the Act of the Franklin R. Lutenberg Chemical Safety Act of the 21st century. Review no later than 5 years date of the Act of the Franklin R. Lutenberg Chemical Safety Act of the century, not less than frequency once every 5 years thereafter. Administrator shall review the adequacy policy of the procedure given and developed in paragraph 1 of include with respect to the annual non-animal epidemiological test method, the procedures assessing determining risk of the under the title. Peer review such policies, procedures, guidance of the administrator determine the necessary to reflect the new scientific development and understanding, testing of the chemical substance, and make sure the policy and procedures guidelines developed in paragraph 1 ample to test chemical substances, make sure they address and how one the exposure to exposure and potential chemical substance, make sure would factor in the decision requiring new testing subject for the condition. Administrators shall not interpret the lack of the exposure information, lack of exposure potential. Describe the manner of the administrator to determine the additional information necessary to carry out the title that include the information relating to the potential exposed susceptible populations and chemical substance complete with risk assessment. Risk chemical substances listed in the 2014 Toxic Substance Control Act Work Plan Chemical Assessment for which the administrator has published complete with the risk assessment prior to the date of the enactment of Franklin R. Lutenberg Chemical Safety 21st Century. Administrator may publish a proposed final rules under Section 6A with the consistent with the scope of the completed risk assessment chemical substances and other applicable requirements of Section 6. Guidance no later than the first year of the day of the enactment of Franklin R. Lutenberg Chemical Safety for the 21st Century Act with the goal to develop the guidance and interested person in developing submitting the draft of the risk evaluation shall be considered by the administrator of the guidance shall be minimum to address the quality information submitted the process to be followed and developed in draft risk evaluation considered a valid administrator. Alright, BM, the report to Congress initial no later than 6 months after the enactment of the Franklin R. Lutenberg Chemical Safety Board 21st Century, the administrator shall submit to the Committee of the Energy and Commerce and Operation of the House of Representatives Committees of Environmental Public Works and Operations Entities report containing the estimation of the capacity of the Environmental Protection Agency to conduct public risk evaluation, Section 6A4C1, risk necessary to conduct the minimum number of the risk evaluation required in 6B2. The Environmental Protection Agency to conduct the public risk evaluation under Section 6B4C2, and the demand such risk evaluation anticipated schedule for the accommodation of demand. The capacity of environmental protection of the agency promulgated the rules under 6A with requiring the basic risk evaluation conducted and published in 6B, and the actual anticipated efforts for the environmental protection agency and increase the agency's capacity to conduct the published risk evaluation under Section 6B. Subsequent reports of administrators shall update and this resubmit the reports described in paragraph 1, but not less than frequently once every 5 years. Annual plan. And general administration for the public regarding the schedule of the resource for the necessary for the completion of each risk evaluation as soon as practicable after initiating risk evaluation. Your publication of the plan at the beginning of each of the calendar year administration shall publish an annual plan that identify the chemical with the substance for which the risk evaluation expected to initiate the complete with the year with the resource necessary for the completion. Describe the staff that each of the risk evaluation has been initiated and not completed. If the schedule complete for the risk evaluation has been changed, they update with the schedule of the risk evaluation. Your consultation with the Science Advisory Committee on the Chemicals established no later than the first of the year of the day of the enactment of the Franklin R. Lutenberg Chemical Safety 21st Century Act. The Administrator shall establish an advisory committee known that the Scientific Advisory Committee on Chemicals referred to the section of the committee. Purpose of the committee should be to provide independent advice and expert consultation the request of the administrator will specify the scientific and technical aspect of the issue and result relating to the implementation of the Title 3 composition. The committee with the representative of such committee with the government, local labor, public and private public interest, annual animal protection advisory, other groups of the administrator determined advisable, including representatives that have specific scientific expertise in relation to the chemical exposure. A woman showing potential exposed suspectable subpopulations. 4. Schedule the administration committee with the committee with the accordance with the schedule administrator determine the appropriate not less than frequently once every 2 years. Our prior actions, rules, orders, exemptions. Nothing in the Franklin R. Lutenberg Chemical Safety Act 21st eliminates, modifies, withdraw the rule, promulgated order, issue the exemption, established and pursuant of this act to this act before the day of the enactment of Franklin R. Lutenberg Chemical Safety Act of the 21st century. Prior initiative evaluation, nothing in the act of the prevents the administrator initiating risk evaluation provided with the chemical substance continuing the completing of such risk evaluation prior to the effective date of the policy or the procedure guidance required for the development and administrator pursuant to the amendments made by the Franklin R. Lutenberg Chemical Safety Act of the 21st century act. Alright, 3. Actions complete with the prior to completion of the policy, procedure of the guidelines. Nothing in the Act requires the administrator to review the withdrawal of the complete risk of the evaluation determination rule under the Act solely because of the action completed prior to the development of the policy, procedure, guidance pursuant amendments made by Franklin R. Luton Chemical Safety of the 21st century. And then, from Section 27, the development and evaluation of the testing method. The General Secretary of Human Health and the Consultation Administrator of the Act through the assistance of the Secretary of the Health may conduct the make grants public and non-profit grant private entities entering into the contract public and private entities for the project with the developing evaluation and expensive efficient method of determining evaluating health and environmental effects of the chemical substance, make sure of the toxic persistency, other character of it would affect the environment, and 2, which may be used to develop information to meet the requirements of the rules order consistent with agreements under Section 4. Administrators shall be considered the methods of the prescribing under Section 4 protocol of methodology development information. Approval of the Secretary. No grant may be with a contract entered within under subsection A, but the application thereof that submitted with approval of the Secretary such that the application shall be submitted in such a form and manner for the containing such information the Secretary may require. The Secretary must also may apply such conditions to grant contracts under subsection A. The Secretary determine the necessary to carry out the purpose of the such subsection contracts are entered into the under subsection without regard to section 3648 and 3709 of the revised statute. Section 28, state programs. Enable the purpose of complementing not reducing authority of the action taken with the administrator of the action the administrators make with the grants and state with the established operation of the programs to prevent eliminating unreasonable risk of the state and the health environment with associated chemical substances. Make sure that the respect of the administrator is unable to be legally taken with the act of preventing eliminating the amount of the grant under subsection determined if the administrator accepts the grant if any state program may not exceed 70% centum establishment of the operating cost is determined by the administrator of such program during the provided period of the administrator grant. B. Approval of the administrator. No grant may be made within under subsection A unless the application thereof is submitted by and approved by the administrator. Such application should be submitted with such form in a manner that the administrator may require such shall that set forth the need of the applicant grant under subsection A. Identify agencies state with which will establish, operate, and both the program and the applicable and submitted. C. Describe the action proposed taken under the subsection of this program. Certainly the support assurance that factory administrators such programs shall extend the feasible with integrated with the other possible programs applicable to environmental, public health, and protection. Provide making such reports, evaluations of the administrator required, contain other information the administrator may request. Where was I? Alright, an administrator may approve of the application in accordance with paragraph 1 application establish satisfactory administrative prior to order need to determine the rule administrator of the grant with the application when the submitted shows the rules should consider the serious the health factors states are associated with the chemical substance mixtures include the birth defects, genome mutations, extent of the exposure of the state of the human being with environmental chemical substance mixture, extent of the human chemical substance mixture of the manufacturing process used and disposed in the state. Alright, Section 29, Authorization of Operations. Authorized to the appropriate administrator for the purpose of carrying out the act other than 27 and 28 in subsection A and C and through G, and from Section 10 thereof, the $10 million, $10.1 million fiscal year of September 30, 1977, $58 million and $646,000 for official year 1982, $62 million for the fiscal year 1983. No part of the funding appropriates under this section may be used to construct any research laboratories. Section 30, annual report. Administration should prepare the submit of the President and the Congress on before January 1st, 1978, on before on the January 1st of succeeding each year with a comprehensive report on the administrative act during the preceding official year. So the report shall include a list of the testing required with the Section 4 during the year of the report that is made by the estimate of the cost incurred during the fiscal year with the person required to perform such tests, and the number of the notices that received during the such year of the under Section 5, the number of the notice required during such year of the under the section of the chemical substance subject of the Section 4 year. For rule order to consent agreement, the summary of the action taken during such year of the 5G, list of rules issued during the year under Section G, a list of the brief statement issued with the complete of the pending judicial action of the action administered of the action within Section 16 during the such year, a summary action prior to problems encountered in the administrative act, and a section, a recommendation of additional legislation administrative deems necessary to carry out the purpose of this act. Section 31, effective date, except that provided in Section 4, the act of the shall take effect January 1st, 1977. And that is Section Title 1 of Toxic Substance Control Act, which is your Title 1 is your control of toxic substance controls.